This is the College Football Connection Podcast with Alvin, Reid, Bradford, Bruns, and Marty Jenkins on 101 ESPN.
Week 0 doesn't exactly feel like a fair label when you go into the festivities with conceivably already a matchup with playoff implications. But here we are ready to get it started. We will explain that and so much more on the College Football Connection. Bradford, Bruns, Alvin, Reid, as per usual, riding with you guys out there, 101 ESPN, the YouTube channel, as well as 101ESPN.com. We are psyched, Alvin, to get after it. I don't know if you can call this the 2025 debut because we had the Big 12 preview. We had the SEC look ahead as well a couple of weeks ago. But this marks the first time when we're able to take inventory of a Saturday filled with college football, both here domestically and across the pond, if you will. We get to make those picks, my friend. How's it going?
And looking forward to it as I do my little bit of homework.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, it's here. It's real. I am going to the game on Saturday.
I would expect nothing less.
Over in Lawrence. And so I'm excited about that. And so I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. Ready to go, as they say.
Not sure how you want to be. We will dive into Jayhawks, no doubt about it, and those Fresno State Bulldogs here in a few minutes. Today, what we're going to do, guys, we're going to give you actually a 4-pack. So, as we have referenced, it's a lighter schedule than usual. But week 0, whether you buy into that distinction or not, we do have a bevy of fine matchups to commence the 2025 campaign, Alvin. So let's start first and foremost with a very enticing affair in Dublin, Ireland. It is the latest edition of Farmageddon. Now, Iowa State, Kansas State, these two teams actually met in the regular season finale a year ago, and that determined quite a bit. Insofar as the Cyclones prevailing 29-21 allowed them actually to advance into that Big 12 title game spot. We know what happened as far as reaching 11 wins overall for the first time in program history, okay? Big 12 title game for just the second time. It was a heck of a campaign looking to replicate a lot of that success coming out of the gate this season. But at present, and this line has moved a little bit, I've been monitoring it, it has gone from 3 to now 3.5 in favor of Kansas State, which, for what it's worth, coming out of the gates as the number 17 team to Iowa State in that 21-22 range. I feel as if these two teams, Alvin, are incredibly evenly matched. You have so much continuity, most specifically at the quarterback position, both Johnson and Becht returning for the respective squads. I just envision this one as a lot of fun right off of the bat.
Absolutely. Now, a couple of things. One, they didn't call them up in May or June and say, would you like to play in Ireland?
Hey.
So when they set this matchup up, whenever they did, I honestly don't think either school at the time would be thinking that this could be the championship game of the Big 12 Conference.
Right.
Do we necessarily want to do this? I think both may have thought about it and said, let's go ahead and play. But it's funny how things change just a little bit. I saw this last night. I had completely forgotten this. Now, granted, this was when I was 32 years old, but did you know K-State played Clemson in Tokyo?
You get a pass, by the way? No. Zero clue.
This is not K-State's first, international game. It's huh?
I do know, however, that ISU, this is the first game outside of the United States. Yes.
Right. So I don't know how that plays out. One of the things that I don't think we know is you can travel someplace and you can get used to the time difference. But how you come out and play in what will be, I guess, technically a night game over there, which starts at noon here, I think you'll have to see how each team gets out after it in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. Iowa State, notoriously slow at the beginning of the season, notoriously slow at the beginning of games. I think that's part of your 3.5. I think another part of the 3.5 is Avery Johnson. Because if you look, pretty much say, he's going to be the difference in the game. If he comes out and he plays an Avery Johnson, all Big 12, potentially, all NCAA game.
That's what they say.
Then K-State wins. I think that Iowa State has got something for them in that, Rocco Becht, both teams bring back key running backs from last year, Dylan Edwards, Carson Hansen.
Especially for K-State.
Especially for K-State, exactly. But K-State lost more on defense. K-State sent some guys to the NFL. And you take NFL guys off of a squad of 11, that's got to make a difference.
Uh-huh.
So, it's a toss-up, but, man, I'm going with the underdog on this one.
Hey.
I think Iowa State comes out and plays a solid game. And when I say, we're talking as we do, I think they covered the 3.5.
Oh, yeah.
Now, whether or not they win, we'll see. Okay? But I like them there, but I also like the under on this one, man.
See, there you go.
And I wish I could – another thing that I wish I could at least be over there for 30 seconds and walk the field. Because I have no idea what the pitch is. That's probably what they call it over there. I have no idea. It might be pristine. It may not. That may have an impact on how many points are scored. But I'm going with the under on this one.
Once in a lifetime opportunity to be certain. I'm with you insofar as even head to head. I will be that bold. That's fine. I'll make the proclamation. I will make the announcement right here on the CFC. Give me Iowa State. Actually, in talking with BK and Ferrario during the week on 101 ESPN, I was getting a little bit of that pushback, okay? A little bit of that blowback because I was advocating for ISU. And I'll tell you, I don't think as a passer in particular, I'm not sure that I would put backed in a category, a rung even, below an Avery Johnson. Now, that is to take nothing away from the latter's dual threat capabilities. He was 17th in the entire conference last year, for crying out loud, in rushing yardage. But backed, yes, you have to figure out a way to basically bring about the growth, shepherd the growth of many different wide receivers, okay? It's almost an entirely new cast in that regard. I'm not going to sneeze at this guy's numbers from a year ago. There was a reason as to why he piled up more than 3,500 yards. He had the 25 touchdowns. He can play hero ball, if you will, quite a bit. But that unknown factor, so much uncertainty as far as how both of these teams, both of these programs are going to react to going overseas, having this incredibly unique opportunity. How much of an assertive way can you come out of that gate, right? Out of the proverbial gates. And I don't think that we can really quantify that at this particular time. And that's why I'm really gun shy here about the over-under, Alvin. I think it's attainable at 50.5 at last check because of the explosive qualities of both of these offenses. You may see a rash of turnovers. You may see some interceptions, some fumbles, putting it on perhaps a surface that isn't entirely on the up and up in the early going. We don't know. But in spite of all of that, I see two offenses that, despite game number one here, a lot of rust to shake off, they have the opportunity, they have the ability to pile up a lot of points.
Yes,
and I think you're going to see that in the second half.
Okay, I agree with you on that. Then also, aren't you coming into this game because of where it's being played and how soon it's being played? I think your offensive philosophy has to be, let's not lose the game in the first half.
Sure.
Let's run the ball. If it's not there, quarterback run. Let's not. Man, we turned the ball over 3 times in the first 20 minutes of the game or whatever. And depending on whether the other team scored, off those turnovers would make a huge difference. Mm-hmm. But I think both teams will say let's play this close to the vest. Let's see what offense they're running. Let's see what defense they're running. Let's play some pretty basic football at least for a half. That's another reason why I'm going with the under.
It was a beguiling matchup last year in terms of what you saw, what you learned in a bad way from Florida State in this setting, right? That set the tone in a terrible way for the Seminoles moving forward. But regardless of the outcome here, I think both of these teams very bullish about their odds and their prospects heading toward the tail end of 2025.
And I also think that you could play this game without fearing the ultimate repercussion of this will be the game that keeps us out of the playoff.
Yeah, with the expanded format, even at just 12.
Even at just 12, it would be another loss, bad one, that would keep you out.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that, we lost this game, but we played in Ireland. We got an international audience, never mind national audience. Yeah. Everybody's looking at us. Saturday at noon, as I used to say with Chris Duncan, it's high noon.
There you go. I love it. And I don't think anyone would argue against the point that at the end of that regular season, Big 12 style, maybe you are talking about the two teams at the top of that heat with regard to the conference race.
And basically, we talked about it, a couple weeks ago. Utah could creep up. It's possible. But these are your two best teams, and they just happen to be playing in week 0.
Talking about week 0 here on the College Football Connection, making some picks, specifically 3 to 4 of them, and then tackling some bigger picture issues. We've had a few of those crop up in college football over the past few days. Bradford, Bruns, and Alvin Reid with you. So, Alvin, you may not be able to, I just know, you're not going to be able to tune into the entirety of the festivities over in Ireland because you have to get yourself ready, my man.
And I will be getting ready.
KU in that revamped, renovated stadium. I want a little bit of intel into that particular situation because I know it wasn't that long ago you found yourself in Lawrence in the facilities there too. People are going to be so pumped up for this one. 4:30, 5:30 p.m.
Yeah, 5:30.
Kickoff, yes. So KU opening a season with, again, much promise, and a lot of that promise as you begin the campaign against Fresno State. 6 wins a year ago. Actually, the son, one of the many sons of Kurt Warner, now at the helm as quarterback for the Bulldogs. That's an interesting tidbit. But the lead story here, the principal profile player, about whom we have to discuss. You're number 6 now of eligibility, and yet I believe Mr. Daniels is still just 22 years old.
Right.
That's insane in and of itself.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
But can we, number one, it's a big leap. It's a big if here. Can we bank on health at least to begin the season for one Jalen Daniels? Because as far as he goes, that's the trajectory along which KU can operate, especially being without Devin Neal. You would expect Daniels to be able to really take and seize a stranglehold, not only on that job, but how this offense is going to progress. And I do find it interesting, too. You go in-house for the replacement, basically, at offensive coordinator, but there's continuity in that department, too. How does KU begin, especially from an offensive standpoint, week number 1? Favored right now, that number, Alvin, is all the way up to 14.5.
And I'm telling you, all right, and that comes down to Daniels. I mean, that comes down to just like we talked about Avery Johnson. This is saying that he's going to come out and show that, one, he's healthy, but B, that he is that quarterback that we expected him to be last year. Okay? And if he does that, they cover. KU has got so many new faces on both sides of the ball, but of the transfers that they have, receiver they were strong, and they got a defensive back, came over from Alabama. They are, their transfer, they did well. Now, how that plays out, once again, it's week 0. We don't know. But this comes down to what the quarterback does for Kansas. Word on the street is that Kurt is going to be at the game. So if I see him, I say, like, hey, remember me, man? I was always in your face asking you stuff back in the day.
It feels as if his son should be playing for Iowa State. That's neither here nor there. It just feels like that, right?
Yeah,
Barnstormer country.
Barnstormer days, exactly. Now, this is part of – I'm not picking with my heart, but come on. I'm not ready to plug in KU topping in by 2 touchdowns week 0 Fresno State.
Okay.
Fresno State is a legitimate football program. Over the years, they played some tough defense. Their problem has been that they had problems generating points. They never have like big time offensive, powers or anything.
Right.
But I think it will be close enough of a game that Fresno State will cover, I believe, 14.5.
Interesting, because I've found myself actually teetering and going throughout the course of the week in a different direction, whereas at first I put a little more as far as confidence was concerned into the plate, onto the ledger there of the first-year coach coming to the program, that is Coach Ince for Fresno State, thinking, okay, making this a game well into the first half, being able to potentially weather that storm, the environment, rabid fan base, all that. You're excited, the new digs, you're back at home. This is a real home opener.
Right.
But then the more that I think about it, and the more that I think about how that atmosphere could conceivably, as the game progresses, take hold, and if Daniels gets onto a roll, I don't envision a scenario in which Fresno State down the stretch, defense, again, proceeding to perhaps, you light it up, possession after possession. I do think that the Jayhawks could have something here and establish game number 1, week 0, that you've got a high-octane O that you have to prepare for, and you better fear a little bit.
Well, and I think that's what they will be going for. Many of us, and I didn't think that our offensive coordinator last year did a very good job. I'm glad that he has moved on. Okay, Grimes. I'm glad he's moved on. The defensive coordinator came off staff. The offensive coordinator came off staff. So we do have continuity going with the Jayhawks. That all works in their favor. The quarterback, I think, works in their favor. It's just, and I'm playing the over, by the way, and so I think there'll be points. But I just see, you're up 24, and they score late, and, that's 10, and they like I said, KU wins by 13 points. If I lose it, it'll be push 14, something like that. And if it's 14 and a half, I still am right. So I just think that it will be a 4-quarter game that KU will manage in a way that I don't fear losing, but I don't see him blowing Fresno State right out of the stadium. And that old adage, man, first game in a new stadium, we're going to honor an all-time great. Somebody's retiring, and it's their last game. Those shake out like 55 positive, but 45 negative.
It's very true.
That's one of those, they'll certainly win that game. If you go through the annals of time, there's no certainty at all.
Okay, yeah,
Right.
there's not a lot of certainty from this end when it comes to that specific over-under figure. It is 50.5 for the record there. I do like KU at the end of the day, at the end of the afternoon, to be able to cover in this instance, win by somewhere in that range. Or to say it, 15-17. I will give the Jayhawks their just due on this occasion.
Yeah, and when you're in week 0, here's another thing you don't know. You don't know about your kickers. You don't know about your special teams. You don't know if somebody gets a punt block. These are just things that will unfold during the game.
Things get funky.
Right.
That third phase.
Yeah, exactly. Now, no one knows, oh, man, we got an outstanding return, man. How do you know that? Well, after they run back a kickoff. But at the beginning of the season, you're like, oh, that guy's great. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
So that's one where, hey, you block a punt, all right, and take it in or recover it at the 8-yard line. Kind of like free touchdown. Either way, that changes the overall outcome of what the final score will be. So those are unknowns. Looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to seeing what this recalibrated secondary, if you will, can do against Warner, obviously making his first start there for Fresno State last season, plus 100 as far as effectiveness ranking in the nation last year. Your opener, it looked good. You were optimistic as you could be about a thrashing of Lindenwood, but there's going to be more, Alvin, from which you can take out of this one, because Daniels, mark my words, he's going to be on that roll. And last year, KU, we understand, after Lindenwood, you get off to that 1-5 start. 8, a lot of people forget, 8 of his 12 interceptions last season, it came during that streak.
Yeah.
He concluded the regular season with a rather banner run. Let's see if that momentum can be initiated early here.
Well, you're playing games in the soccer park in Kansas City. Then you're playing at Arrowhead Stadium.
Respectfully, yeah.
Respectfully. And we got on a roll. Like I said, we beat some teams in Arrowhead Stadium. Great. But it'll be great to be playing in this new stadium and everybody be fired up. Officially a sellout, and a sellout is 41,700 now.
Okay.
It will be slightly higher once they finish the east side of the stadium. And I won't go into all the amenities and all that, but sold out 41,700. So
I was going to ask, what are some of the newfangled additions, though, to which you are looking forward?
One,
taking them in and
obviously,
such?
it's the suites area for those with the money. There's a couple of things that I could have access to. There's a place with some round tops where you can stand and watch the game. Those tickets are available to something like K Club. I did not get one of those. By the way, I could get a season ticket for about $1,200, but they want like $500 for like PSL action, and I'm
don't know about that.
I'm one of those. It's like, man, I hate to pay for the right to pay for something. Yeah. But anyway, I will probably get on board because I can't go I can't go over there for every home game. So I'll spot. And I'll obviously be there homecoming. I'll obviously be there for a K-State game. So I'll go see my share of games. But I'm like next week, I'm not going to go see Wagner on Friday night. I mean, God bless Wagner, but that's not drawing me.
The following Saturday, however, my friend, we still have to talk about that one. Something could be in the works. We're going to be talking about MU-KU
exactly.
very shortly
exactly.
on the College Football Connection. But first, let's blitz a little bit. Let's go into the evening slate, okay, specifically with that matchup on CBS. It is Stanford making the rare trip to the island, all right, to the Isles there, Hawaii. Now, you're number 3. You would have thought, in my opinion at least, Alvin, that Hawaii under Timmy Chang, prolific passer, obviously in his own right, had such an imprint on that program, brought aboard as the head coach as well. But specifically on that side of the football, it's not as if, it doesn't seem as if this program has a lot of traction moving forward, even despite the fact that last year you fell just one victory shy of bowl eligibility. And then you go to the opposite side of the spectrum.
That's where I'm going.
Stanford, holy cow.
Yeah.
Year number 1 in its new conference, and yet this team, this program, is in an utter shambles.
It's a shambles.
My
and
gosh.
I'm just who had a tumultuous summer? Well, Michigan was waiting to see what their penalty would be, and they kind of dodged whatever.
Don't get me started.
Don't get me started. Right. I'm not like Paul Feinbaum that should have got the death penalty. I ain't quite to there, but okay, Michigan.
I heard a bit of hyperbole.
Right. I just real quick on that. I heard an interesting take. They would have been severely punished if we were not in a revenue sharing era. So the rest of the conference would say, if we knock Michigan out of bowl eligibility, we get less money. We don't like them, but money's money.
Follow the trail.
But Stanford. Now, for those of you who don't know, Troy Taylor, back in the spring, they do an investigation, and he's just belittling women and just caustic and really grounds for dismissal off that. But he promises to never do it again. And, they said, you're not fired. And he said, but he promised, for the next, 90 days or until the season starts, or forever, I promise to be good. 2 months didn't go by before people were saying, this guy is out of control. So they fire him. Andrew Luck takes over as general manager.
CEO.
You
like it. You like it in theory.
I like it because he played there. But Andrew Luck never actually came off to me as a guy that wanted to coach, run a football team, whatever. He was beat up. He retired. That's fine. But then he disappeared. He didn't do no color analysis. He's not on any show. He didn't have a podcast. But now he's in charge of the football program. All right, that's cool. He hires Frank Reich, and Frank Reich, I don't even know if he has any interest. He probably just called him up Coach, I know you know me. You're just the interim coach. Can you just get us through this season?
Help us give us stability for a season. Literally 1 year.
1 year. And so then, like I said, so Stanford now has to go to Hawaii, play week 1. I really didn't follow how many, birds flew the coop when all this was going on, but I'm sure it was some.
Oh, you've got some new guys.
Yeah. So come on. Right. Come on, Stanford. You'll surprise me if you go out there and do anything. I don't see them doing anything.
Hawaii only favored by 2.5.
Yeah, now I get, but that's why I'm going with Hawaii, because I thought that spread would be a little bit more. Hawaii can pass the ball. Stanford had crappy pass defense last year, so it just don't add up.
No.
Right, and I think people fall in love with Andrew Luck and Frank Reich and they got pro coaches and NFL philosophy. So they got disarray. What players they got? What? No, I see Hawaii covering. I also see an over on this one. I think Hawaii going. I think they'll beat Stanford handily by 10 points, 12 points, something like that. And it's just wild that Stanford University, a bastion of knowledge and thought, that it has athletic programs that have always been that people looked at them and said, look, Stanford, Northwestern, they do it. They got those kids. They win games. They aren't national champions, but they have never abandoned. We are like a academic first school.
Yes,
but they're hiring. All right, of this, I don't get it. I don't get it. And why they even didn't jettison him in time to possibly hire a coach last spring, to where you have an interim coach. An interim coach is, how old is Frank Reich? Probably 70 or something. Maybe he may
approaching.
Not. Maybe he might be about my age, because he was playing when I was in my 30s. He might be a little younger. But anyway, I don't see it. I got Hawaii covering, and I got over. You still have it at 50.5 on that one?
50.5.
Okay, we're going over on that one.
David Shaw, where are you? We want you back.
Remember that?
Anybody.
Remember that? Yo, we're looking for more than 9-3. Okay.
I'm going to make you incredulous, though, here.
All right.
Simply because I get what you're saying.
All right.
I also get all of the hubbub about people wanting the narrative here, buying into that with respect to Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
But in an unconventional travel situation, Hawaii obviously playing at home, are you convincing me here? Am I convinced that Hawaii has been this bastion of protecting the home field over the course of the past few seasons? I don't know, almost to the same degree as Stanford, what I'm going to get, what I'm going to see out of this team in week 0, let alone for the entirety of the season. Replacing a lot of guys on that side as well. I think that this one is an absolute rock fight from start to finish, miscues galore, which is why I look at an obtainable number of 50.5, and I say because of how putrid both of these teams could be as far as moving the football up and down the field or not doing so altogether, I'm going under.
Okay.
And I actually just have a little bit of fun here as well, because I do think full stop, that it's going to be a game into the second half. Stanford's going to hang around, going to make it ugly, and in year number two of the ACC endeavor, week 0 is a victory insofar as Stanford at least. Yeah, give me Stanford plus 2.5 plus 3.
You're gonna, all right.
I'll do it.
All right.
I'll do it.
Okay. I hear you. And here's another thing. It isn't like, West Virginia has to play in Hawaii the first game of the season. It's still a flight, but, going from San Francisco to Hawaii, I mean, that's not the longest flight in the world.
No, it's not.
And you've known that you're going there, so it isn't like you played 2 games and, oh, my God, now we got to go to Hawaii. Right. And quite frankly, I'm sure that they probably left a day or 2 earlier than they would have if this had been a regular season game.
For sure.
So maybe they were able to get a little bit more acclimated, but Stanford has to prove to me that they are actually there, because I don't mean mentally, I don't mean physically, but all this has just come together over the summer to where we are now.
True.
And so they have to prove to me that, yes, we got our stuff back together. We're ready to play in an ACC schedule. We're ready to play on the road, non-conference schedule. We do have our stuff together. They have to prove it to me first, because, like I said, all of this was shaken out in June. Come on, man. It's only the 3rd week in August. That's it. So, it's almost like, man, we had 9 weeks to go from no coach to playing a football game. It's a lot.
Now, that would be a heck of a story.
Yeah.
Speaking, however, of flights, Boise has an interesting one next Thursday, okay? So we are spinning it forward here, moving beyond week 0, and we will at least, guys, give you one preliminary pick for week 1, technically, your line of demarcation. Per se, Alvin. It's going to be leading up to that Mizzou contest against Central Arkansas next Thursday evening at Memorial Stadium. We'll get into that next week on 101 ESPN, the YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com. But a sneak peek at number 25, Boise State, now without, of course, Ashton Jeanty in the backfield. And yet, the Broncos ranked, albeit marginally. Interesting contest to begin the season as you fly down to South Florida, year number 3 under the new coach in place there as well. And Alvin, I'm not exactly sure. I can't tell you. I don't have this encyclopedic knowledge about either Boise State's cast or South Florida, with the exception of, hey, South Florida actually returns 33 guys in a senior capacity. The coaching staff bullish about that, and rightfully so. But if you look at just the first 3 games on the docket for South Florida to begin 2025, to wit, you start against Boise State, in your own backyard or not, very, very difficult. Broncos favored by 6.5. Over-under in this game, 63.5. That's a lot of points. But then you've got Miami and you've got Florida in successive weeks thereafter. Can you tell me another team, maybe in the nation, whose first 3 weeks rival South Florida's as far as competitiveness? That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. And what South Florida's coach said, Boise State is as good as any team that we're preparing for coming into the season.
Bingo.
Now that could be some hyperbole.
Physicality, though, you have to admit,
right?
They're bringing that back in spades.
Yes. And so he was like this. Look, for those that think, man, they got Miami, then they got Florida, they'll take care of Boise State because it's a home game.
Not so fast.
Not so fast. And I think they should be leery because Boise State wins games not because they had Ashton and Gentry, but because they were good all the way around. And I think that I've got them covering in this game, but, and Bradford, I'll tell you the truth, that one we'll see. I'm not really highly confident, but 6.5 translates to if they win the game, 31-24, we cover. No, we don't cover. But I said, if they win by a touchdown and the score gets up there, then we go over the 63-5. What alarms me a little bit that even though I'm picking Boise State to cover, am I asking myself if we're going to go over 63.5? Am I kind of like differentiating from myself in that to get to 63.5? Am I not saying that Boise State's going to beat them pretty good? Mm-hmm. And so I'm really hesitant on that, but I am going to take Boise State to cover, and I am going to go with the over because I think South Florida will score more points than people think.
Okay.
So that's how I'm getting to the over, even though Boise State 6.5. That's a little large. That's a little large for me.
Hey, as far as production goes as well, the quarterback position, I'm not sure that you find somebody who rivals what South Florida is able to give you from a group of 5 program as far as output there. Who knows? Could be very nip and tuck down the stretch. That is exactly why, the exact reason as to why I am shying away from picking an outright winner or even going with one squad or the other. But when I see that figure of 63.5, and it's subject to change, could move a little bit over the course of the next few days, too many for me when I know what Boise State specifically can do from a defensive standpoint, bringing the physicality, really potentially getting into that opposing backfield for South Florida, even in that atmosphere. Too many points for me, so I'm staying away from at least the winner, Boise State or South Florida, even though, you have to give that slight edge to the Broncos. But points take me under in that capacity. I like it, buddy, because we have a pretty riveting set of circumstances here. Differences between you and yours truly.
There you go.
Week 0. I enjoy that.
And Boise State won't run the ball 40 times a game like they used to.
No.
Like last year. So they'll pass more, and maybe that'll generate more points. I'm not taking anything away from Ashton Jennings and how they played football, because obviously they made the playoff. But I think that they've got to find a way, okay, we don't have that guy anymore. And that guy ran the ball a hell of a lot. So we'll run the ball, but we will run the ball less, which means we will pass the ball more, which in a game against South Florida could add up to points.
Bingo.
That's all I could say on that one. But that one was that's tough. That one's tough.
I want to talk about running the football in a different region. Heck, passing it as well. Who's going to be doing either of those, performing either of those tasks? When it comes to the University of Missouri, well, apparently it would be 2 individuals, Alvin, starting next Thursday against Central Arkansas there at Faroe Field. Bradford, Bruns, Alvin, Reid with you. We're going to broaden the spectrum a little bit, having already made our 4-pack of picks here on the College Football Connection. And earlier in the week, the story or the non-story, depending on how you frame it, right, how you categorize it. There was so much hullabaloo and hubbub months ago, Alvin.
Yes.
When Bo Pribula arrived on campus from Penn State, from Big Ten country, James Franklin with that tearful, heartfelt address. We're not going to have him. He doesn't get to back up Drew Aller because he has to look out for himself. We appreciate the fact that he's going to get his. Well, by all accounts, he may have gone to get his, but perhaps in this case, unless we're all being led magically astray, the bottom line is that for the first game of the season, we're going to see some division of the snaps, of the reps, between Bo Pribula and Sam Horn at signal caller for Mizzou. I don't know how much, Alvin, you can glean, how much you can take from a season opener in your own backyard against the vaunted attack of Central Arkansas. But at the very least, personally, from my standpoint, I hope that we're not talking about something akin to alternating possessions one after the other. I don't know if you learned anything from that. Other teams have attempted it. Mizzou really hasn't in any sort of important spot. I also hope that you're not basically seeing a carbon copy of the picture from 2023 in which it was labeled as a competition going into that season opener. Sam Horn, ring a bell, and Brady Cook, when in all reality, in actuality, we knew it was not a competition. Maybe you were priming Horn to play if need be down the stretch that year, but it was never a true competition. This one feels a bit different insofar as both of these guys, Eli Drinkwitz, the head coach, has confirmed throughout camp there has been little separation. It's also intriguing because you have entirely different skill sets, both on tape and on paper. Bo Pribula came over from PSU, from Happy Valley, basically exhibiting, being that guy, the prototype for what you think Drinkwitz and Moore would want in the offense as a dual threat option. There have been questions about the arm strength or lack thereof. You've got the mobility, okay, but is he Mr. Checkdown? Whereas Sam Horn, coming back from the Tommy John surgery, sidelined him for all of 2024. He's got the rocket arm, but is he going to display that deftness, that touch, that accuracy down the field? I have zero problem with playing this one out in actual game action, and I wouldn't even be surprised. I know that nobody wants to say it. Everybody wants to bat it down, not even consider this a remote possibility. I'm not joking when I say KU, when the Jayhawks roll into town for week number 2 versus Mizzou, you still see both of those guys.
I disagree.
Okay.
Because that's all I was going to say was Missouri will have a quarterback on September the 6th. They will have a starting quarterback.
But will both play?
Both may play, but
Okay.
there will be a definitive starting quarterback by September the 6th.
So what do you think about this stance to begin the year considering the level of competition or lack thereof?
I think that if Pribulus was the man, Pribulus would be the starter. And he obviously did not snatch the job. I think that's why there's some question in who is going to be the starter. And that would be, if I was a Missouri fan, I'm not quite to the point where, if you got 2, you don't have any.
Yeah, that's the old axiom.
That's the old axiom. I'm not quite there yet, but why isn't this kid who came here from Penn State with all the hoopla, and granted you had a kid coming back from injury who did not play last year, who has eligibility, but yet you're not the starting quarterback. Right now, you're not the starting quarterback. And you had all summer to figure this out. And somebody will win that job outright, I think, before the 6th.
What's interesting to me is if you consider the notion here, and this would have been absolutely unfathomable just a few weeks ago, is it possible that to begin the year to basically stay the course, if you're Mizzou, you begin the season with 6 consecutive home games for crying out loud. 8 of your 12 contests this year come in your home confines. I don't care what the preseason rankings are stating, what they're suggesting. Yeah, you have questions specifically not only at QB, but the offensive line too, finding the best 5, as Drinkwitz has said ad nauseum. But by the same token, as far as stabilizing the offense and operating it in a way that feels familiar, okay? It's not as if Missouri, even last season, you can say what you will about some of the difficulties that were experienced at times by Brady Cook even before the injuries, but keeping the offense on schedule. This year, you don't even have Theo Weiss. You don't have Luther Burn III, obviously. You like what you're going to get, you think, at least in theory, from Kevin Coleman, from other individuals. Your offense, the identity has to be ground-based. Ahmad Hardy, he's going to be a beast. Alvin, if we make it together to that contest, you watch this ULM transfer. He's going to be the guy, shades, and perhaps more of Cody Schrader. But they're going to play largely, to begin the season, close to the line of scrimmage. So, to me, the overall upside, if you're looking for upward trajectory and the greatest potential area for growth and upside, maybe that's with a guy like Horn who can actually stretch opposing defenses, but if he's erratic, if he's not basically falling into that profile that is so preferred by Kirby Moore, demonstrated based on what we have seen over the past couple of seasons as the OC in Como, the safe choice here, may actually be the guy you initially had brought in to raise the ceiling. That's what I think is interesting and contrasts what we heard a few months ago.
I agree. Because, look, if I'm a defense right now, I'm not just KU's, but if I'm a defense right now.
Because of the running.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, man, you know what? They don't have Weiss and they don't have Luther Burden. So thus, man, I'm zoning Missouri. I'm taking away the big throw over the top. And I'm still like, man, you had two guys could catch that little flare pass and turn it into 40, 50 yards. You don't have that. Coleman may bring it, but right now you don't have that. All right? And so I would say, like, you know what? You're just going to have to, like, run plays. You're going to have to have 16, 17, play drives. We're just not going to give up anything, like, over the top to Horn, okay? So then that puts Pibulus in the thing, like, you got to make it happen. I think they're figuring out they want to see him play against, granted, UCA, whatever, a defense to see, all right, when they ran a zone, we sucked, all right? Or when they played man, we blew them up.
And how do you adjust? Like what? Exactly.
So I think that's why I'm saying that I think they're going to determine, because practice did not determine. And Bradford, we both know. We could talk all you want to about ones versus ones and scrimmages and all that. It just don't happen. You don't want anybody to get hurt.
Nope.
This is not old school football. No. You're basically very few plays are run against a for real, really trying to tackle you, hurt you defense until the first game. So maybe that's how the quarterback, competition, it just can't be real until we see it really on tape.
So are you going quarter to quarter, maybe 2 drives at a time? What's your preference from your standpoint?
All right, whoever starts, I want to see if they lead us down the field for a touchdown, okay?
And that has to be the guy you brought in, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, optics?
I agree. All right. And if you get a first down or two and you punt, I'm sending my man back out there. Especially against the University of Central Arkansas. So like, now, if we don't make nothing happen on drive 2, then my other man gets his shot. Now, what is the crowd? They're like, oh, throw the bomb, right? He's like, well, how about he just maybe run the exact same plays that we ran with this other guy and see if for some reason it works better for him. I think it's difficult because the first quarter, everybody's, and if you score a touchdown, whatever, they ain't no good, or we're good, or who knows what's going to go on. It's an interesting dynamic because it's a dynamic that I did not think we would be discussing in the third week of August. I won't say troubled for Missouri, but I didn't think this would be happening. I really didn't.
I am marginally surprised. First and foremost, what must you do, regardless of the man at the helm? Establish and control that line of scrimmage heading into your Week 2 clash against KU. Hey, regardless, I'm waiting with bated breath. And another subject on which I am waiting, and guys, we're not going to have to wait that much longer, actually, because beginning next season, Alvin, last topic I want to tackle with you here on this edition of the College Football Connection. It is official. The SEC, moving forward after this coming season, you will actually have a total of 9 league games. Set it in stone, my friend. Your initial thoughts on this, and also the matter of trying to establish 3 common opponents. So annually, in that case, had a lot of fun with this, actually brainstorming earlier in the day, because if you're a Missouri, for example, if you're a team that doesn't have the long-standing tradition and pedigree, how is that going to sort itself out for you, the situation that is, as far as being assigned teams against which you don't have a lot in the way of long-standing rivalries versus the upside of maybe teams you've competed against for the past few years, against which you've had success geographically. A lot of different elements get thrown into that pot.
Yeah, well, okay, let's take Georgia, for instance. If you ask Georgia, do you want to play Missouri every year, be their common opponent? They would say yes. Only because they know that they have a crap load of hard games. Okay?
They think they can bank that one.
Right. And I am not insulting Missouri in the least. If you're Missouri, you want Arkansas to be one of your we play them every year team.
Keep it up. We'll take that trophy. Battle line rivalry.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No, I've had enough. I've had
enough. Me too. I was like, no, quite frankly, I'd rather see you play Texas A&M every year.
Oh, same.
If I had to pick just as a fan, I'd say, I'd rather see you play Texas A&M every year.
Give us those Aggies. I'll go to Kyle Field every other year. Already did it. Not this coming season.
Yeah. But so how that shakes out, I think, look, I don't think they're going to go to Alabama, LSU, and Georgia and say, who do y'all want to play? Right. Florida's a little bit down right now, but Florida, I still think will
rise up again.
Rise up again, right?
Sooner rather than later.
Right, exactly. So I'm not looking like Florida is like, like we're going to ignore what Florida wants. I don't think that is so either. I was interested in the three common opponents. Because when they were first talking about going to 9, I said like, well, what are you going to have 4, and then you'll play 5 others, and then because you figured like, man, if you're Missouri, and you had 4 common, okay, and Vandy wasn't one of them, you're adding pretty much a guaranteed hard game, and I think that if you played in the other side of the SEC, you already got a bunch of hard games. So I think that it will be how can I put this, a computerized kind of, we have to put together a schedule that does not give our powers a distinct advantage.
Yeah, advanced metrics will have to come into play.
Or disadvantage. Now, where that shakes out for Missouri, which is, who do you put Missouri with? Ole Miss? I mean, I don't mean in games, but as far as expectation and all that, because you got Vanderbilt and you got Mississippi State and you got Arkansas, that at least this year you're not thinking that you're going to get a lot out of them.
Yeah, based on the last couple of years under Drinkwitz moving forward, where this program wants to go, STP and all that, you should justifiably be in the class of an Ole Miss. Now, old reliables, everybody who operates by the old school Bible of the SEC will say, no, you don't belong there yet. But, for instance, the powerhouses, the true blue bloods of the blue bloods in this conference, they can't just play one another in this finite set, if you will. Because now every other year with 100% certainty you are facing every school in the conference. That is what this 9-pack does for you.
Exactly. And I don't care if you got 12, okay? And that's why, the SEC, who was really gunning for this, we need as many like guaranteed bids to the playoff as we can get, and the Big Ten was, whatever Drinkwitz and I guess Lane Kiffin were both saying like, no, come on now, that ain't gonna work, right?
Renegades,
Renegades, right? But so they have to look at it like, I don't want to lose 2 games, I don't want to lose 2 conference games. And be sitting around thinking like, man, I'm sure they're going to let us in. Because you still got Notre Dame flying around there. You still got other teams that will come in with 1 loss. And, Clemson's pretty damn good. If Miami keeps it going, like they might come in with 2 losses and basically have looked better than you over the course of the season.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that however it sets up, I think even the powers will say like, it'd be folly to think we're guaranteed with 2 losses, and it'd be definitely not going to happen if we got 3. And I don't care if we ran the table on everybody and lost on the road to Alabama and lost on the road to Georgia, lost on the road, and then got beat by a good team maybe at home, or flip that. Maybe we lost at home to Alabama, great team, lost at home to Georgia. Okay, all right, well, that looks bad. But then, man, we lost on the road to LSU, too. And it's like, man, those are all top, 5, either 10, maybe LSU slips, they're 12, 13 in the nation.
Yeah.
But those are hard games. But if you lose 3 of them, I don't think you're going to playoff.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
And that brings me to the final point. I've been theorizing about this for close to a couple of days now. I'm going to borrow it, actually, as a subject from 101 ESPN. Put yourself in the shoes of the standard or diehard Missouri fan, Missouri enthusiast. Give me the 3-pack of teams that you, 1, expect to have handed to you on an annual basis, and then pie in the sky, idyllic world. Viable opponents, but also opponents that maybe are a tad out of reach based on the estimations, the projections, that body of work, whatever is the governing body as far as determining who these guys are going to be. Because I have 2 in my mind, Alvin. I have 2 that have to be absolute staples, okay? And those are, without question, not because I like it in the first case.
All right.
You know that Arkansas is going to be built.
Yes, I got them as one.
Because ever since Missouri, and it wasn't that long ago, 30-ish years basically, that Arkansas itself was added to the SEC. More
Yes.
of a late entry, okay, in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Arkansas won because of proximity, because of geography. It's easy, and you've tried to manufacture this rivalry now for well over a decade. But hey, if you're a Missouri fan, and these things obviously go in extreme cycles, but for the immediate future, you would be over the moon about essentially grabbing a signature-ish victory every year. Yeah, I'll take that 48-14 trouncing Arkansas a couple of years ago. It doesn't matter where they play in this series. Both Memorial Stadium down in Fayetteville, MU has dominated. It's not going away. There's too much money, easy money at that to be made. It's not the marquee matchup. You're going to have Arkansas, period.
I agree with you. Arkansas is going to be one of the one. Now, I don't think Arkansas will be the last game of the season, as it has been here as of late.
I hope not.
No, I hope not either. But Arkansas is one of my 3 too.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, I want that Black Friday matchup. I'm so eagerly looking forward to Arkansas, the Hogs, year after year.
You on Friday at 1:30 in the afternoon. You're like, I'm find something else to do.
Yeah, I'd say so. Let me give you number 2 though.
Number 2. All right.
Number 2 is a slam dunk for me.
Okay.
Because it is more difficult in this day and age, just inherently to both foster and then extend rivalries that go beyond the mere competition on the field. Okay, and so what I mean by that is you have to really dig in a deep fashion to go back, figure out geographically, historically, okay, against whom, against which team can you match up. But Mizzou can do it now in this case, thanks to relatively new entrant itself into the SEC side of things, the University of Oklahoma. Okay, because you take it back to the Big 12. You take it back all the way to the Big 8. Norman isn't that far away either.
True.
Norman has prestige, has history, has competitiveness, regardless of what we have seen in 2 of the first 3 years under Brent Venables in this particular conference. This one is easy to me, and I also think that from a Missouri fan standpoint as well, you are willing to be challenged because even in a lean program, we talked about Florida a few minutes ago here on the College Football Connection. Oklahoma, for 2 of the past 3 campaigns, yeah, it has been down. You really think that's going to be the case even in the SEC for long? Oh, no. And I like the fact, I embrace the notion of having an uber challenging matchup against Oklahoma year in and year out. To me, those 2, Oklahoma in particular, I'm excited about that one. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Right. And look how many kids, when being recruited, have both Missouri and Oklahoma on their visit list. I think both teams will like that game for recruiting. If we can get the upper hand on them, maybe we can get the upper hand on recruiting some of these kids out of Oklahoma that are closer to Missouri.
And there's been some chirping in the last 2 years alone because you've had guys committed with their burden, decommitting, back and forth. Oh, hey, Caden Green, come on over this way. We'll take you, sir.
We'll take you, sir. Right, exactly.
You're left tackle
so,
now,
yes, you are absolutely right because I'm a kid of Big 8, and we're going way back. And that Oklahoma game, horrible weather. That place was packed. Right. Remember? It was like, no, people showed up for that game.
Yeah.
Right. Now, granted, not as many because was it ice or it was just cold or what was going on?
Now, you're not talking about flashing forward to the Adrian Peterson game, but rather...
No. I mean the game last year.
Oh, okay.
The game last year.
Big 8, I got confused.
No.
Big 12, Big 8.
But, I'm saying, but I still see that.
Yeah.
When Oklahoma played Missouri last year, to me, that was a conference game, but it wasn't an SEC conference game.
Right.
It was weird. Yeah. This is between Oklahoma and Missouri. Damn a SEC. I'm sure the guys that came up here from Oklahoma and the fans were saying, like,
I get you.
I want to beat Missouri because this is Missouri. Because if you're in your 60s, maybe even your mid 50s, this game had a whole different level of something to it.
It did.
Because it's so historic. So you're right. I got Oklahoma.
It had gravity. I want more of that. I want more of that going forward, and I also want for nominee number 3, I want more of this head-to-head battle. Now, the events of the last 5-ish seasons definitely contribute to my feelings along these lines, but if you're searching for another comparable team, a program that could fall into that same category as your own, give me a better candidate than the University of South Carolina. Already these 2 teams on a yearly basis, they play for the Mayor's Cup. You can call it cliche, you can call it trite, Columbia versus Columbia. I love the notion of potentially traveling, well, you will now, every other season to the other Columbia, to Williams-Brice, to that rabid atmosphere. And when you examine the respective trajectories Alvin, of both of these teams over, well, let's just take it back to when Mizzou joined the conference post-2012 when you were running roughshod. Fortunate circumstances, yes, 2013, 2014. South Carolina also was operating along the same lines because you were at the height of Spurrier power there at the tail end of South Carolina. You grew together at that time. You came back to the pack. Barry Odom, South Carolina, had some times as well. Last couple of years, looking better under Coach Beamer there in the other Columbia. And Mizzou, we know what the case is. So as far as being on a level, even playing field, to me, South Carolina and Mizzou put together, they make too much sense.
I agree with you. I did like the fact that you got Florida and Georgia, but Florida and Georgia have to play each other every year.
They have to.
You know, Mississippi and Mississippi State have to play each other every year.
Alabama.
Right. And so, you know, that's one of your ones there. So now you got two games, and the one that fits, I would say, would be South Carolina. But, man, we can't squeeze Texas A&M in there because they have to play Texas, I guess. Now, I don't know if that's written in stone. Because, you know, down there, man, Texas might be looking like, you know what, we just assume not play Texas A&M every year.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot, you know. And they're going to play Oklahoma every year. Mm-hmm. Now, when they moved over, that was one of those ones where you're still like, oh, man, they're in the SEC, but they're going to play each other every year.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know playing a SEC schedule. I'm not sure that either program says, like, man, let's have this knockdown drag out every October.
Has to happen somewhere.
But it has to happen somewhere. So that, you know, that takes they're going to play each other. Like I said, Mississippi State are going to play each other. Alabama, Auburn are going to play each other. I think by the time you shake out, like you say, do the metric schedule, I think South Carolina probably falls into that mode. But, man, I'd like to play Texas A&M every year.
I'm with you. And that's the thing. If you are really serious, and Missouri is by all accounts, the record is itself. The statistics, the output, the general direction over the past few years tells you this is a team on the rise, relatively speaking, relative to the rest of the SEC, not tier one, but exactly below. Right. So you want to garner those real, legitimate, authentic SEC bona fides. How do you do that? By squaring off against, if not the very best, that next rung below. So if it's me, I am more than willing to swap out, say, an Arkansas, again, ideally for an A&M, for a South Carolina. But think about it on the flip side as well. If you're if you're given the opportunity instead, rather, on a yearly basis to maybe, take a Vanderbilt, which geographically isn't that far away either.
True.
Or a Kentucky, are you willing to, and these things move in cycles, but accept more of a surefire victory, it would appear on the surface, or do you want that competitive juice to be flowing every single season?
I would like that. I will tell you what, so Vandy will have to play Tennessee every year, I guess. All right. Yeah, all right. That'll be Tennessee's gift. But then other than that, like who do you put with Vandy? You know, technically, because they rise up every now and then, you know, and they won a game last year against Alabama, who knows how. But man, whoever gets to play them every year is, man, that's they got an advantage. And so I think they'll try to move them around or do something with them. I like that. Maybe, possibly, Arkansas could be not that team, but I think Arkansas is going to be that. It's going to be that team. So.
It is. And hey, who else wants Mississippi State?
No, true.
Starkville isn't what it was.
Starkville? No, man.
We won't dig into that. We won't.
But we won't.
Suffice to say, we will not be previewing many Bulldog-centric affairs this year.
Pretty much, yeah, if they win a game at all. I'll tell you what, though. I guarantee you, when that schedule is released, when it usually comes out, in May? About?
Yeah, about.
Yeah, when that schedule is released, folks going to be mad. From Tuscaloosa to Columbia to what? Right. Well, why do we have to play them? Or why do they get to play so-and-so? Now, and then Missouri's schedule this year is bizarro. So it's, keep in mind that all these, we got 9 home games and all that mess will be over. Right. Because you got to play 9 conference games. You got to play 4 and 5. Nobody is like, if the schedule came out and said, like, Missouri's got 6 conference home games and 3 road games, everybody lose their mind. So you're going to have 5 one year, you're going to have 4 another year. And so, that's got to work out too.
It's a delicate, precarious balancing act. I'm not hating on this season's schedule, though, because that means fewer in-season October, November, December commutes to mid-Missouri. It can get absolutely crazy at those times, Alvin. Yeah.
I'm just saying that how do you end up with that many home games? I know it happened. You explained it a few weeks ago. You played on the road at UMass. Okay, so you get to play UMass at home. Mm-hmm. All right, you did a home and home. So maybe that's your one home game that. All right, so KU comes back onto the schedule. They're going to play in Columbia, and they're going to play in Lawrence next year. They're 2 year off, and then they come back with it, or 1 year off. Yeah. So that's another one where I don't know if either team is ready to play that game every year, but that would determine a lot as far as how you're looking at your conference schedule, because it won't be at the end of the year like it used to be. Which means you're going to play that game in September, and everybody said this is too early to be playing this game. But at the same time, that's a rough game, okay? And I think Missouri will look at their home games this year and say, everybody's talking about our home games. One of our home games is against Kansas, and whether Kansas is any good or not, that's gonna be they will show up. It is going to be a knockdown, drag-out football game. So they said it ain't like we got just UCA 4 times, and then we start our conference schedule. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
There's always going to be a fly in the ointment, right?
Yep, exactly.
But we hope out there in the audience, thank you so much for joining us on the 101 ESPN YouTube channel, plus 101ESPN.com, that this weekend, week 0, and heading into next week when we have that full-fledged slate, that you are nothing but content. For my man, Alvin Reid, safe travels tomorrow. Have a good one. Yep. We'll see what the vibes are like. We'll get that vibe check from you early next week.
Vibe check is like 70 or 68 degrees at kickoff time.
Can't be better. You cannot beat it.
I mean, it's just going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Bring on that pumpkin spice. I'm going to find some. I'm going to find some for tomorrow. Why not? Hey, we'll be back next week on the College Football Connection. Mizzou, Central Arkansas, Illini, KU, all 3 of the local teams in action before Saturday, to say nothing of OSU, Texas.
Oh, my goodness.
LSU, Clemson. Woo! The fun just getting started as we commence the campaign with you here on 101 ESPN and 101ESPN.com. Until next time, take care, everybody.
Who plays Labor Day night?
Thanks for listening to the College Football Connection podcast on 101 ESPN.